A new statement from Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano reignites tensions within the tradition-bound Catholic world. The former apostolic nuncio to the United States, already known for his harsh stance against the current direction of the Church, has launched a frontal attack against three cardinals, considered by many faithful to be among the leading critics of the contemporary pontificate: Gerhard Müller, Robert Sarah, and Raymond Burke. But this time, Vigano isn't just expressing dissent. His accusation is much more serious. According to the Archbishop, the three cardinals represent a veritable controlled opposition. In the statement, Vigano argues that their role would be to contain the exodus of Catholics scandalized by the ecclesial crisis without truly questioning the root causes of the transformation underway in the Church. The Archbishop describes a situation that, upon reading it, appears increasingly paradoxical. On the one hand, there are cardinals denouncing certain doctrinal or pastoral deviations. On the other hand, however, they would continue to recognize and support the principles that, according to Vigano, generated those very deviations. This is why he openly speaks of a contradiction. According to his analysis, two incompatible realities coexist in the Church today. The Catholic Church, faithful to tradition, and what he defines as the synodal Church. Yet, Vigano argues, many church leaders would continue to lead the faithful to believe that these two visions can coexist within the same institution without conflict. To support his criticism, the Archbishop cites some concrete facts. Recall, for example, that Cardinal Müller participated in the meetings of the Synod on synodality in 2023 and 2024 as a voting member directly appointed by the Pope. According to Vigano, this would demonstrate that even cardinals considered critical of some reforms continue to adhere to the synodal path out of obedience to papal authority. The Archbishop adds that Müller, Sarah, and Burke recognize a series of principles that, in his interpretation, represent the foundations of the ecclesial transformation of recent decades. Among these, he mentions episcopal collegiality, ecumenism, religious freedom, and the Abu Dhabi Declaration. Elements that, according to Vigano, derive directly from the Second Vatican Council, and which would have paved the way for the current doctrinal confusions. The criticism becomes even harsher when the Archbishop addresses some recent documents. According to Vigano, the three cardinals expressed doubts about controversial texts, but without asking for their revocation. He cites in particular Fiducia Supplicans and the subsequent reactions to the Motu Proprio Traditionis Custodes, which severely limited the celebration of the traditional Mass. Many faithful expected more determined resistance from the cardinals close to tradition. But in Vigano's interpretation, this resistance would never have translated into concrete action to block those measures. The Archbishop also criticizes the cardinals' silence on some issues he considers very serious. Among these, he mentions the fact that they continue to recognize Victor Manuel Fernandez as prefect of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. According to Vigano, this would be particularly problematic in light of the controversy surrounding some writings attributed to the prefect. Then there is a very personal passage. The Archbishop recalls the canonical process that led to his excommunication for schism and says he has not received any word of support from Cardinals Müller, Sarah, or Burke. But the central point of his analysis concerns the very origin of the Church's crisis. According to Vigano, Many prelates recognize that doctrinal and moral deviations exist today. However, they refuse to connect these deviations to their historical roots. For the Archbishop, that root would be the Second Vatican Council, and it is precisely here that the deepest rift emerges. Vigano maintains that many cardinals continue to consider the Council perfectly consistent with the Church's perennial teaching. But, according to him, this belief prevents us from understanding the true causes of the crisis. In his interpretation, those who defend the inviolability of the Council would be forced to seek a compromise between two opposing visions of the Church. A compromise that, according to Vigano, does not strengthen unity but ends up numbing any dissent. This is why the Archbishop returns to speaking of a controlled opposition. According to him, the interventions of Cardinals Müller, Sarah, and Burke are presented as calls for unity but hide profound internal contradictions. In his analysis, this form of opposition will never be able to stop the transformation of the contemporary Church. On the contrary, it would risk unwittingly contributing to the completion of the conciliar revolution through the synodal path. The statement also contains a polemical passage about the current pontificate. Vigano quotes a phrase attributed to an observer who said, "The new pope would be just Bergoglio with a better tailor," a deliberately provocative expression used to suggest that behind the changes in style, the ecclesial line would remain substantially the same. But the text is not limited to criticism. It also contains an appeal. Vigano invites the faithful, tied to tradition, priests, and bishops, to form a common front, together with the Society of St. Pius VI and other traditional communities. According to the Archbishop, internal divisions among traditional Catholics only end up weakening the resistance. For this reason, he proposes to set aside secondary disputes to address what he defines as a decisive phase in the history of the Church. The strongest moment of the declaration comes in the final invitation. Vigano explicitly asks the bishops, and in particular Cardinals Müller, Sarah, and Burke, to give a concrete signal of unity by supporting the episcopal consecrations announced by the Society of St. Pius VI. According to him, participation in these consecrations would demonstrate that the threats and excommunications coming from Rome no longer frighten those who want to defend tradition. The statement's conclusion almost takes on the tone of a mobilization. If the battle must be fought, Vigano affirms, the faithful must rally under the banner of Christ the King. And he invokes the intercession of the Virgin Mary, Queen of Victories and Mediatrix of all graces, so that Catholics may put aside divisions and fight together for the defense of the faith, for the honor of the Church, and for the salvation of souls redeemed by the blood of Christ. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment, Amen. God bless you.